Okay, so let's talk about the first great horror movie of 2024, The First Omen, which is directed by Arkasha Stevenson, starring Nell Tiger. And let me tell you, this was one of those movies. First heard about it, I was wondering, is this movie going to be good? Is it a quick cash grab? You know, legacy things sometimes don't really hit the mark. And then we found out more about who was going to be directing and also Nell starring in it. And I was like, yes, this could actually be pretty good. And it's pretty funny. It comes out a couple of weeks after Immaculate. And I'm just going to tell you, this really is a step above Immaculate. A completely well done horror film, in my opinion. I liked Immaculate. For the most part, I like the last third, and I think the last 20 minutes are some of the best parts about Immaculate, but I feel like the movie as a whole really didn't vibe or stick together, in my opinion. But I think The First Omen really steps in and really showcases how to do things, in my opinion, as well. And I'm not trying to bash Immaculate or anything. I enjoyed it. It was fun. But that's pretty much it. I think The First Omen is really on a different scope, and I'm going to talk about it right here. So like I said, the film is a prequel to The Omen, the 1976 film, and what we see is how eventually the Antichrist we see in The Omen comes to be. And we follow the character of Margaret, played by Nell Tiger, as well, that they come to Rome, and it has the same beats and vibes to Immaculate. You'll pretty much hear me talk about it throughout. And they are now going to go to this like convent, this church, orphanage, whatever, and they're going to become a nun in the process of it. We see that there is something looming, however, something dark and sinister here. There's this one girl there that is being sort of ostracized from the other girls, and we don't exactly know why. We get hints of it, maybe that they are sort of trying to be pushed to become this sort of vessel for evil, and we see as they are trying to discover what exactly is happening here. You put all of that together with the whole thing going on at the time in Rome in 1971 with the civil rights movements that are happening, with people dissatisfied with how their lives are and all of that. And it gives you kind of beats towards how we are in today's society as well, which I enjoyed. And I'll talk more about that in my spoiler talk, which will be up later today. But basically, I think that this film really excels with the horror aspect of it because it doesn't try to go for these cheap jump scares where we see a lot of films they do. It really is driving the horror of it just by what's exactly happening here, and also by showcasing some very horrific imagery here as well, which I thought really took it over the top in the best way possible, because I was really curious when I heard that the film was about to be rated NC-17 and they apparently had to cut some things out of the film and all of that. So that was really something that piqued my interest with this one, is what exactly are they doing here? And I see that the film doesn't really try to hold back on anything, because there are images ingrained in my brain from this movie that I don't think will be leaving for a while, because they are done so well. The way that the tension, the way that the whole feeling of when you're watching something and you feel disoriented because there's just so much happening and you're anticipating what's about to come, and this film does a great job at really making you feel that sense of dread and this fear and this anxiety about what's about to happen. And also I think it's a lot to do with the performances here, because I think Nell does a great job at showcasing this character that is trying to keep grounded to reality, but everything else around them is making them be more detached and they're not entirely sure what's going on. So as the character of Margaret starts to feel more confused and not sure entirely of what's happening, we as the viewer as well feel that. I think it does a great job of paying homage to The Omen as well by giving us these little tidbits here and there that kind of feel like the same beat of the original, but it doesn't try to be the original at all. It's telling its own story here, and I think it really excels in that aspect of it. I think also the nods to some other films in the horror genre, and especially Possession in here, there's a great nod to it, and it really does elevate the film even more at the point it comes into. And I was just there smiling because it is just done well. It's not trying to replicate or any of that. It's just giving you those beats of those films that came before it, and it just transcends the film even more. The story in itself, I think, was told well. The twists and turns that come in the story also are ones that I think are happening in a natural way, where it doesn't feel like you were seeing this happening from a long time ago. And even if you were, I still think the way that the story slowly develops itself really works well for it. Now, I really am giving its praise and all of that. One minor thing I didn't like was the ending, where I feel it's more of the studio wanting to sort of interject and make something that can be continued. And I won't get into spoilers here, but if you want to hear me talk more about that ending, it's going to be in my ending explained spoiler review, whatever, where I talk more about why it really didn't work for me, especially considering that there was another part of the movie where it could have cut and it would have just been a perfect ending, and it still could have gave you that sequel bait, but we'll talk more about that in the spoiler aspect of it. But I think as a film in the Omen franchise, because I'm going to be honest, the first Omen from 1976, The Omen, is great. I don't think the sequels that followed or the remake or any of that are worthy to put in there. Like I always tell people, just watch the first one, 1976, quit. But now you got this one to watch, the First Omen. I think watching the first one, because I had watched it the night prior, I watched the First Omen, and then watching this one was such a great experience because you really get those callbacks and all of that to the first film. And I think it just did a great job there. So I think that this is definitely one of those horror movies that did its job well done and will be revered. It pushed the genre forward. It pushed the franchise. And I'm curious to see where they take it next. So let me know your thoughts and opinions on the First Omen if you've watched it. Overall, we enjoyed it a lot. It was just that ending. It almost was a film I gave 5 stars, but that ending kind of brought me down. So I'm going to be at a 4.25 out of 5. I think if that ending ended somewhere else, this would have been a near perfect film. It had the horrific imagery. It had an amazing story, great performances, great direction, beautiful score, and just one of those films that I think is definitely destined to be a classic. So let me know your thoughts and opinions on it down below. I got the ending explained coming up as well. So if you want more of my thoughts full on the ending and all of that, be sure to stick around because we'll be talking all about that pretty soon. But as always, let me know your thoughts and opinions on the First Omen, if you enjoyed it or not, and if you are excited to see what comes in the future for it, because I'm very curious where they want to take this story, considering everything that happens at the end. But more of my thoughts and theories are going to be on my ending explained, so go check that out. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. We're on the road to 30,000 subscribers, less than 2,000 to go. And yeah, we're funding our own short film as well, so go check it out on Seed and Spark down below in the description. As always, I'll see you next time. Stay safe, stay positive.